Ashe, greetings. Grand rising, a grand day, a good day, and goodwill to you all once again, my fellow natural native earthly humans the world over. And of course, thanks for stopping by. Now, this is yours truly, as you don't know that this is yours truly, I, the Mystic Philosopher, and welcome to this part 29, the continuation of my series of talks titled, Can Africa Be Set Free? Can Burkina Faso, the land of upright people, the land of people of integrity, be set free? Now, if you haven't yet watched or listened to part 1 through to part 28, and hopefully in that consecutive order, I ask that you please do so before going forward with this part 29, or that you please do so at your earliest convenience. I can almost assure you that by doing so, you may learn something new, which is what this thing we call life is all about. Learning something new. You may be reminded, by doing so, you may be reminded about something or of something, or at the very least, you may get something to think about, something to ponder, something to talk about. And please know that I did not say that by listening to yours truly, you will learn something, but that you may learn something. The operative word here is may. The truth be told, these talks, these presentations, these perspectives are definitely not for everyone, because I am well aware of the possibility, if it is not a fact, that some of you that take the time to listen might be offended by the truth, or more correctly, by the facts that are enveloped within these presentations. But as the late Robert Nesta Marley once said in one of his most famous songs, again I quote him, as customary, as I always do, his song called Jaliv. And Bob Marley said, and I quote, "The truth is an offense, but not a sin," unquote. And as the late Dale Carnegie said, those convinced against their will is of the same opinion still, unquote. And for the record, I am not a con. I must declare that I'm not a con. And neither am I trying to con. I'm not trying to convert you. I'm not trying to convince you. I'm not trying to convert or convince anyone. No, I'm a con. I even try to stay away from the word con in as much as possible. I am just sharing another perspective. And what I'm sharing another perspectives and insights on a lot of things. A lot of topics. And in this series, I am sharing what I perceived and think I know and know that I know must be done in order for our motherland, El Cubeland, aka Africa, and by extension, all her children, home and abroad, to be free. And please note, I did not say that to gain so-called independence or to get freedom, but to be free. There's a difference between the two, and this I've already explained in previous episodes. Again, I ask for your patience because this one might be a little bit longer than usual, because I'm trying to talk two into one so I can move on to something else. Now, for those of you that have been listening to some, if not to all of my previous episodes, previous talks, you will already know that my answer to these two questions, number one, can Africa be set free? And number two, can Burkina Faso, the land of upright people, be set free? Is a resounding yes. In fact, yes, and more yeses. And I have no doubt about such a possibility. However, the purpose of this series is to show you, from I, the Mystic Philosopher's perspective, and I, spiritual and intellectual insights, how and when Africa, how and when Burkina Faso, and by extension, how and when all African people, home and abroad, can and will be set free from the tyranny of the soulless creatures, their imperialism and colonialism. Now, it was the late Maya Angelou who once said, again I quote, "The truth is, no one of us can be set free until everyone or everybody is free," unquote. And with that fact, we both know that none of us Africans, be it individual nations or individual, can be free until all of us are indeed free. And so, as I did previously in part 28, I'll begin this part 29 by again reading Karl Marx's quote on religion. The quote that I have divided into 4 sections in order for me to decode, explain, and expound on the facts that are enveloped therein. And the quote, and again, and I quote, religion is 1, the sigh of the oppressed creature. 2, religion is the heart of a heartless world. 3, religion is the soul of soulless conditions. And number 4, religion, is the opium of the people, unquote. And I have thus far decoded, explained, and expounded on section 1, section 2, and section 3. And now I will decode, explain, and expand on the facts that are enveloped here in this section 4. Again, I quote, religion is the opium of the people. And I ask that you please bear in mind at all times, and especially as I continue to share with you much more of my own perspectives, my own analysis and insights on the thing called religion, this profound statement by Karl Marx. And I quote again, religion is the opiate of the people, unquote. I also ask that you bear in mind why I, the Mystic Philosopher, think that I know that it was, and I think that I know that it was, and that religion is an extremely dangerous weapon, a weapon of mass destruction. A weapon of mass destruction, first for our continent and motherland, Alcubiland, commonly called Africa. And why I think that I know that it was and that it is still an extremely dangerous and destructive weapon against our most honorable African ancestors and, by extension, their ascendants. Ascendants, please note, not descendants. Ascendants meaning we, the natural native earthly humans. We, the highly enriched melanin, highly enriched carbon, highly enriched soulful, highly enriched sun, skin, complexion people. I ask that you please bear in mind the reason why I think that I know that religion is definitely not from our motherland. Religion is not from Africa. Religion is not African, and nor was it originated or created on the continent called Alcubiland, aka Africa. I ask that you please bear in mind at all times that it was not created by our most honorable African ancestors, and that our most honorable African ancestors did not create religion, and that prior to the aliens' invasion, aka the invasion of the dark forces and the dark magicians, yes, the invasive parasitic species, the cold-hearted and soulless creatures, the humankind, the kind of human, the malevolent imperialists and colonialists, prior to these alien demonic invasion of our continent, our African ancestors did not know religion. They did not even heard of religion or even conceived of such a demonic ideology. And neither did they practice religion. I ask that you please bear in mind, and at all times, that what our most honorable African ancestors knew and practiced were what may be best described in this, the imperialist and colonialist language, magician language, as our African spirituality. What they know and practice were our African spirituality and our African cosmology. This I will have much more to talk about at another time. These are subjects that I strongly recommend that you search and research independently for yourself, especially if you are of African. You're an African. And I can assure you that by you doing that, you will find videos, speakers, authors, writers, and written articles that can and may even speak on these subjects with much more knowledge and much more authority and experience than I may be able to. So please do your own research on our spirituality, African spirituality, and African cosmology. I ask that you please bear in mind at all times that it was and that it still is the alien invaders and conquerors, the invasive parasitic species of humankind, namely the soulless, cold-hearted creatures, the anti-natural human, the dark forces, the forces of evil, the dark magicians and their cohorts and collaborators, the imperialists and colonizers that brought this alien ideology and alien philosophy and weapon of mass destruction to the African continent. And they violently and mercilessly impose it on our kind, gentle, caring, peaceful, hospitable, and unsuspecting African ancestors. I ask that you please bear in mind at all times that anywhere and everywhere the aforementioned dark magicians, the soulless humankind creatures, the imperialist colonizers go, that religion, sickness, suffering, death, and destruction follow. And why, you may ask, is because they are a curse. And I also ask that you please bear in mind this factual quote from Karl Marx. Religion is the opium of the people. Please bear it in mind at all times as I continue to share with you what I have learned and know about opium from I was a child and now into my senior years, and also some new information that I have searched and researched while preparing my notes for this episode. And I hereby ask that if any one of you, my listeners, think that I am being misled about religion and that all that I have said thus far about it is false, that it is untrue or even malicious, and why I think I know that it, religion, is detrimental for our African continent and for my African people, our people home and abroad, and why I think I know that if we don't learn from the Chinese people and seriously and unapologetically clamp down on it and eventually get rid of it completely from our continent and from our minds, that it, religion, along with its cohorts, along with its collaborators and promoters, namely the dark forces, the forces of evil, and the dark magicians, yes, the soulless creatures, the imperialists and colonialists, will eventually eradicate us. Not only from the continent called Africa, Cuban correctly, but also from off the face of the earth, from off the face of this, our planet and Mother Earth. If we don't get rid of it, they're going to get rid of us. And if the planet lasts 50 years from this, and our people don't take this message and do what we're supposed to do, somebody will be quoting me when I'm long gone that I did said it. And secondly, I ask that if any of you, my listeners, think that Karl Marx's description, his statement, and his definition of religion, along with my interpretation, are incorrect, I ask that you please do a response video and provide whatever factual evidence and logical information that you have that can or will prove otherwise. And I can assure you that it will be well received and promptly scrutinized. Now, religion is, bear it in mind again, religion is the opium of the people. Now, what is opium? Now, according to Britannica.com, opium is a narcotic drug that is obtained from the unripe seed pods of the opium poppy. And according to Wikipedia, opium, also known as poppy tears, which is processed chemically to produce heroin and other synthetic opioids for medical use and also for illegal drug trade. Now, what does narcotic mean? This is our language, so we always have to consult their dictionaries to know the meaning of, know what they're talking about, what they are saying. Now, according to Yahoo AI, quote, the Greek meaning of narcotic derives from the word narkotikos, which means to make numb, which means to be numbed, unquote. And what is opioids? Well, according to MayaClinic.org, opioids are a broad group of pain-relieving medicines that work with your brain cells, unquote. In other words, opium or opioids, when used or ingested, it impacts or influences what? The function of our brain or the function of the brain. Now, I will take the liberty and say that if we are not on opium, I will take the I will take the liberty and say that if we are not on opium or opioids, and if we are not possessed by religion or under the influence of religion, then from this Karl Marx statement, religion is the opium of the people, we can now logically deduce or simply deduce that in effect and in all practical reality, religion is equal to what? The narcotic drug, opium, and by extension, opioids. We can logically deduce that religion functions the same way as the narcotic drug, and by extension, opioids, in that it makes its victims numb to feelings. It makes its victim numb to humanity, numb to justice, numb to truth, etc., etc. You can go on and on. Just like the cold-hearted, soulless creatures, the imperialists and colonialists, to whom it belongs. And numb to reason, rather dumb to reason. They make it numb and dumb. Dumb to reason, dumb to facts and dumb to reality. Another way of saying this is that religion performs the same function of the narcotic drug, opium, and by extension, opiums on humans. Now, all of my life, I have been hearing about this thing called opium. From as far back as I was a young child growing up, I heard about it. I have heard about it through the mass media, the mass news media, through the television and the radio and newspapers. And I have heard people, including my own parents, talking about it and how dangerous it was and still is. From all that I have heard about it via the aforementioned different news channels while growing up, was and is that opium is something that is very bad. Therefore, if religion is the opium of the people, then by the same logic, religion is something that is very bad. I heard that it is something that is very dangerous. It is something that is evil and that it should be avoided at all costs. Therefore, if religion is the opium of the people, then by the same token, religion is something that is very dangerous, evil, and it should be avoided at all costs. The operative word here again is if you prove it otherwise. I heard that it is a drug. And even as a child, and before I was able to look up the meaning and definition of drug and what a drug is, I was taught both by my parents, my school, my community, that drugs were bad. Therefore, if religion equal opium equal drug is bad, then by the same token, religion is a drug and it is bad for you and me, for us, the melanated people in particular. And when I question my elders if drugs are bad, why is the doctor prescribing it for people, and why there is a drugstore or there's a shop or a drugstore called drug. There's a store called drugstore selling it to people. And then I was told that there are good drugs and bad drugs, illegal drugs and legal drugs, and that only doctors are authorized to prescribe, sell, or dispense legal drugs, aka good drugs. And even though I did not know what drug is or even what the word drug meant and why one is considered legal and one is considered illegal, the word drug was enough to scare the hell out of me and let me know that it is something extremely dangerous. I have heard that whether opium, is considered legal or illegal, that it is still a drug, and that all drugs have what is called negative side effects, and thus all drugs are dangerous to my health and well-being. I heard that opium is addictive, and that once its victims have tried it, unless they get professional help early and be delivered from it, they are hooked for the rest of their lives, which is normally not very long. For it is until death do they part. And by the same token, if religion equal opium, equal drugs, equal addiction, then once one falls victim to religion and under the influence and control of religion, then unless they get help early, they can become hooked for life, and until death do they part. I heard that it destroys a lot of people's lives. I heard that it has caused ruin to lots of families, both poor families, wealthy families, educated families, noble families, ignoble families, successful families, you name it or you name them. It has caused broken homes, broken marriages. It has caused homelessness. It has caused bankruptcy, both business and personal. It has caused mental issues. I heard that people literally have gone crazy by using it. It has caused depression. It has caused its victims to unalive themselves, aka commit, you know what? It has caused its victims to unalive others. It has caused its victims to commit violent crimes. And that it has caused those who are involved in it, in its trade, in its trafficking, or in its promotion, to commit even more violent crimes among themselves and others as well. And by the same token, if religion equal opium, equal drugs, equal addiction, then it too has destroyed a lot of people's lives. Religion has caused ruin to a lot of families. It has caused both poor families, wealthy families, educated families, noble families, ignoble families, successful families, you name them. Religion has caused broken homes, broken marriages, homelessness, businesses, and personal bankruptcy. Business and personal bankruptcies. Religion has caused mental health issue. Religion has caused a lot of people to literally gone crazy. Religion has caused some people, if not most people, to suffer from depression and rejection. Religion has caused its victims to unalive, some of its victims to unalive themselves, aka to commit, you know what? Religion has caused its victims to unalive others. Religion has caused its victims to commit violent crimes, and that it has caused those who are involved in its trade, in its trafficking, and its promotion to commit even more violent crimes among themselves and among others as well. So all that I knew about this thing called opium was what I have heard and read in the news media. And that was enough for me to know that it is something bad and something that I must stay the hell away from, and that I should not even mention in or talk about, let alone knowingly and intentionally get involved with it or find myself in any environment where it is being traded, promoted, or even being used. And now that I decoded Karl Marx's statement, religion is the opium of the people, and know, understand, and overstand what it means. I now know that I now not only know that it is not good for my fellow African people or myself, but I also know that I too must stay the hell away from religion. In closing, I will quote one of my regular listeners, classmate, and intellectual sparring partners, namely Mr. W. Grant. They, and I quote, they say no one is supposed to talk about religion, even though they know that religion is a sham, even though they know that religion is robbing them of their resources, even their lives, of their time, robbing them of their time, of their attention, and their energy, and of their money. In short, the acronym called MEAT: money, energy, attention, time. Religion is robbing them of their money, energy, attention, and time. That is what religion does to its victims. It robs them of their meat. Unquote. I ran out of time. In fact, I way past my time. Thanks, I asked for the extension. And so I ask that you please join me in part 30 for the continuation of Can Africa Be Set Free? Can Burkina Faso be set free? Burkina Faso, the land of upright people, be set free. In the meantime and between time, here's willing that you be more, you my listeners be more and much, much more, and definitely not be less. Let no one be less you, but be more and much, much more. For I am the Mystic Philosopher. Ashe, 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 I say. Thanks again for listening and for your time. And if you like it and you think others should hear it, please share it. Ashe, I say.